Hello, as I'm sure all of you know, there's two ways to become a famous fitness influencer in today's day and age. The first is to have a healthy diet, get enough sleep, train hard, and use anabolic steroids. The second way is to have a healthy diet, get enough sleep, train hard, use anabolic steroids, while telling everyone you're natural. Which is why today we're diving into some of the most dangerous steroids in the world. At number 10, we have oxandrolone, more commonly known as Anavar. Anavar was designed to have a massive anabolic to androgenic ratio, with the goal of separating the muscle building effects like nitrogen retention and cell regeneration from the viralizing androgenic effects that increase masculinization. This ability to promote protein synthesis, preserve lean muscle tissue, and fasten tissue recovery made Anavar perfect for emergency situations. Because if a little boy came into the ER with severe injuries, you couldn't just blast him with a full dose of testosterone unless your goal was to completely destroy his balls before they even drop, which of course is just saving him the trouble of doing so himself when he discovers the Tren twins at 18. Although Anavar is a mild anabolic steroid, it will still cause viralization in women, meaning females will develop an Adam's apple, deeper voice, and experience increased hair growth. If you think this doesn't sound too bad, you're right. However, what makes Anavar arguably one of the more dangerous steroids on this list is it's expensive and difficult to procure. To put it into perspective, you're more likely to find a powerlifter who tracks their macros than getting real Anavar when buying from your local gym bro. At number 9, we have T-Bol, known as Tren or scientifically as chlorodihydromethyltestosterone. T-Bol was originally developed in the 1960s for medical use, but quickly found its true calling as the steroid of choice for East Germany's state-sponsored doping program. So if you've ever watched an old Olympic highlight reel and thought, wow, that female shot putter has a thicker neck than The Rock, T-Bol is probably your answer. T-Bol was designed to provide steady, lean muscle gains without water retention, making it popular among athletes who want to be stronger and faster without ballooning up. However, unlike Anavar, T-Bol is more suppressive on natural testosterone production, and one of the main reasons it became so popular was because it does not convert into estrogen, so there's zero risk of unintentionally turning into a Polish person. However, it still lowers HDL and raises LDL, LDL basically being bad cholesterol, so while you may look shredded, your cardiovascular system will slowly be working to kill you. And because it's an oral steroid, it does come with an increased side of liver toxicity. All in all, T-Bol isn't the most insane compound, but it will chemically ruin your cholesterol, suppress your balls, and give you the kidney function of a stressed out South Korean. At number 8, we have Winstrol, scientifically known as stenozolol, the go-to steroid for getting absolutely cut. It works by stripping away water weight and fat, leaving behind hard, dry muscle, but at the cost of pretty much developing arthritis. The primary mechanism of its action is its effect on sex hormone binding globulin. Think of SHBG as Reddit moderators that handcuff your testosterone so that it can't build muscle. Winstrol binds to SHBG with extremely high affinity, effectively distracting these mods, skyrocketing the amount of free testosterone and other bioavailable hormones floating in your blood, making every other drug in your stack significantly more potent. Other than obliterating your joints due to drying them out, Winstrol also has high liver toxicity. It shreds HDL and sends LDL even higher than T-Bol, meaning more stuff clogging your arteries and less stuff clearing them. With an HDL reduction of up to 70%, Winstrol puts your cardiovascular risk somewhere near that of your average American. It also shuts down natural testosterone production pretty aggressively, so bro, unless you stack this with test, you're gonna turn into a literal Twitch streamer. Because of Winstrol's DHT-derived structure, it decreases collagen production, dries out subcutaneous tissue, and removes that soft, healthy fullness from your skin. This gives you that shredded, peeled look like you're one paper cut from death. However, if you drag on the cycle, your dermis will become more and more fragile, making it prone to stretch marks and literally tearing apart from your muscle. So Winstrol is normally used during the cutting phase as a sort of finishing touch, alongside whatever PED stack is being used, but the trade-off is joint pain, cardiovascular strain, shocking natural testosterone production, and liver damage. Coming in at number 7, we have testosterone, or TEST for short, also known as hormone replacement therapy, HRT, for people that want to make it sound like a wellness routine. From a pharmacological perspective, this is the reference standard, with every other steroid on earth measured against testosterone's anabolic to androgenic ratio of a 1:1. It modifies your DNA to increase nitrogen retention and protein synthesis. Testosterone is classified as a controlled substance in most countries. This means self-administering HRT doses in a Planet Fitness bathroom is using and abusing anabolic steroids. However, if you get an actual doctor to prescribe you testosterone, it's great if you need it, But if you're 21 and self-diagnosing low T while scrolling Twitter till 2 a.m. and eating like shit wondering why you don't look like Lee Priest, you don't need HRT, you need to lock in and blast Tren. Abusing testosterone can lead to hair loss, high blood pressure, and gynecomastia, which unlike normal man boobs is literal boob tissue deposits that you cannot lose even if you shed weight. While lower doses are relatively safe compared to the other steroids on this list, abusive high doses do greatly amplify risks and negative side effects, putting testosterone at a solid number 7. At number 6 is decagerbolin or 19-nortestosterone, also known as Deca or nandrolone. Nandrolone will lube up your joints, probably make you depressed, hit PRs in the gym, and EDs in the bedroom. Deca was originally developed to help treat muscle wasting diseases and osteoporosis, which makes sense because it's actually one of the few anabolic steroids that has joint soothing properties due to the increased production of collagen. Deca is also neurotoxic, so it can absolutely mess up your mental, it can potentially give you depression and make you very emotional. Think of a 40-year-old man with 300 pounds of muscle, but with the emotional intelligence of a 13-year-old. Of course, this varies on genetics, and as well whether or not you'd have a decent lifestyle versus a shitty one, alongside whether or not you're stacking Deca with a mild cycle versus being a lab rat. Again, like most steroids, Deca destroys HDL cholesterol and raises LDL, creating a lipid profile that makes it look like lard is your primary source of protein. Over time, this leads to arterial plaque buildup and an increased risk of heart disease, which surprisingly isn't even the worst part, that being Deca dick. Even if you're in bed with the hottest girl you've ever seen, your libido will crash harder than a Wall Street bets redditor blowing grandpa's inheritance. Suppression-wise, Deca is deceptively aggressive. Despite its reputation as a mild compound, it completely shuts down natural testosterone production, LH and FSH levels drop off a cliff, messing with your fertility, and with a half-life of around 15 days, any dosing mistake will leave you geeking for a while. Occupying the 5th position in this list is oxymethylone or Anadrol. Think of it as the mushroom from Mario that makes you power up. Since it's a steroid used to get power quickly, it's popularly used in powerlifting cycles with effects so potent it will have you asking people if you could clean here. Some studies showed that women and children actually tolerated low doses of Anadrol surprisingly well. This is because Anadrol isn't super androgenic, at least on paper. That means in lab tests and chemical structure, it doesn't bind strongly to androgen receptors compared to the other steroids, so theoretically it should cause fewer masculinizing symptoms. However, during first-pass metabolism, it converts into other steroids like mestanolone, and these new compounds' effects are similar to what happens to an alcoholic when they land in Japan and discover strong zero. Since Anadrol and its byproducts don't aromatize into estrogen, you would think there's no gyno risk. However, you'd probably get gyno anyway. This is because Anadrol can act as a progestin and exert estrogen-like effects at the receptor level, leading to symptoms like gynecomastia, liver damage, bad cholesterol, feeling super lethargic, and literally turning blue due to the increased red blood cell count. Number 4! Holy guacamole, and by guacamole I mean Superdrol or methasterone, originally synthesized in the 1950s by Syntex, at the same lab behind Anadrol. Superdrol was so potent that it was never actually approved for medical use. Instead, it made its grand debut decades later, marketed as a pro-hormone supplement in the early 2000s, thanks to a legal loophole about the same size as the one Mr. Beast's lawyer will come up with to have 100 men fight a gorilla. It creates a super psychological amount of glycogen retention inside the muscle, without the subcutaneous water retention that you would get from estrogen, resulting in a cosmetic effect that is almost unrivaled. Unlike your average gym bro bulk cycle that ends in becoming Greek and bald, Superdrol cycles are short, having you risking liver failure in only a few weeks because it's incredibly hepatotoxic. Superdrol will also absolutely shoot your appetite, which is not ideal if you want to be full, and it doesn't convert into DHT like Winstrol or Masteron, so your hairline might stay intact, but focusing on this one benefit is the same thing as saying you have friends, then logging onto VRChat to talk to them. Finally, in the top 3, we have the notorious compound Trenbolone, more commonly called Tren. Now, Tren is not your normal steroid. It'll turn cute little creatures into anabolic bundles of protein, raking in more money, and makes cows absolutely mog the walking pharmacy at your local Gold's Gym. Tren binds to your androgen receptors 5 times tighter than testosterone, like that one memory of you opening a hollow first-generation Pokemon card as a kid and folding it into an airplane. This causes extreme nutrient partitioning, which is a fancy way of saying Tren makes your muscles look at calories the way a Magic the Gathering player looks at Mountain Dew, pretty much forcing everything you eat to turn into muscle instead of fat. Tren doesn't just amplify your physique, it amplifies everything, which means even if you have slightly insecure tendencies, You'll be able to convince yourself that your girl's sleeping pattern is indicative that she's cheating on you. If you played CSGO as a kid, you'll develop an even stronger gambling addiction. And if you think lifted trucks are cool, you'll assault someone, then go out with a dude. The stories online are legendary. You have anecdotes of people who took Tren and began taking the bus to meet single moms, dudes spending hours drafting up sex robots, and all kinds of crazy stuff. All in all, Tren makes you do things that you would otherwise never even think of without it. Some well-known downsides of Tren are the Tren cough, a phenomenon where you suddenly start hacking your lungs out after injecting, likely because you nicked a vein, and now your lungs are coated in oil and solvents. There's Tren skin, where your skin looks like CS2 charts after Gabe tariff to the unemployed Chinese and Russian community. Sleep becomes optional, not because you don't want to, but because dreaming is for people with soft hands. And now you have insomnia. Instead, you'll lie awake at 3 AM, making up scenarios on how you can get revenge on the dude who sneezed beside you on the bus last week. Despite all this, if you're part of the 0.01% of people with zero underlying mental instability, no insecurities, and a liver made of titanium, Tren might actually make you feel like a god. You'll walk to the squat rack with a crazy aura, dominate your workouts, but for most people it's a quick way to ruin their life. You'd think it doesn't get any worse than Tren, but compared to number 2, Tren is a walk in a moderately dangerous park. Cheque drops, also known as T-Bol. This compound was initially made to keep canines from reproducing, so it's only natural for a gym bro to look at it and wonder if taking it can help them hit a new PR, and new PR it did. Just like that, Cheque drops made their way into underground lifting circles and strongman events. T-Bol is a 19-nor-testosterone derivative similar to Trenbolone, but with a specific methylation that pretty much triggers an immediate, suprapsychological response in the central nervous system, so it doesn't really build contractile tissue. It just chemically forces your brain into a fight or flight state to maximize neural drive and output. Cheque drops are rare because they're not mass-produced, illegal, and their only use is to induce roid rage. They don't build your muscle, nor endurance, they just make you feel the rage of a League of Legends player when their mom tells them to get a job. With a half-life shorter than Balkan peace talks, Cheque drops will have your liver enzymes looking like a presidential pump-and-dump scheme, and they're so potent that they're dosed in micrograms. The aggression you receive from this compound will not be fun. It'll make you obliterate the squat rack, then obliterate your future. Cheque drops also aren't something you cycle. You just take 1 or 2 doses before a competition and that's it. There's no PCT for it. You just flip the coin of PR or ER. At number 1, we have something that isn't even technically a steroid, but a peptide hormone that most people have no idea is used as a PED. Insulin. In the bodybuilding world, this stuff is legendary. You'll hear it's the most anabolic hormone in the human body, but in reality, 90% of guys who try it don't turn into mass monsters, they just turn into mass. Think of insulin as the key that binds to your cells, unlocking the door for glucose and amino acids to rush in. It shifts the body into extreme storage mode, shutting down fat burning and forcibly driving nutrients into either muscle or fat. When a diabetic uses insulin, they look at the meal they're about to eat, then dose the insulin to match those carbs. Bodybuilders do the exact opposite. They inject the drug first, then scarf down sugar to keep the drug from killing them. You're essentially taking on a diet that was already making you grow, then adding a 500-calorie sugar bomb on top of it to satisfy the needle that you just stuck in your gut. And the margin for error is 0. If you don't eat enough sugar immediately, your blood glucose craters. This makes you enter hypoglycemia. Your brain, which runs on sugar, realizes that the gas tank is empty and turns off. There's no warning, no racing heartbeat. You just feel a little sleepy, lie down for a nap, and wake up at the spawn menu. If you're looking to get big, stick to the basics, sleep, protein, and with the realization that if professional athletes with medical teams are terrified of a substance, you probably shouldn't be pinning it in a Gold's Gym parking lot.